In the vast and grim universe of Warhammer 40k, shrouded in secrecy and shadow, lies an enigma known to only a few, the Grey Knight's Oath of Silence. Unlike other Space Marine chapters, who face their battles with honor and conviction, the Grey Knights, mysterious warriors forged for the sole purpose of combating chaos, guard knowledge so dangerous that even their fellow Space Marines remain in the dark. These elusive warriors stand apart not only for their unique psychic powers and unmatched armor, but also for their relentless commitment to secrecy, reinforced by a solemn vow, the Oath of Silence. This oath dictates that no one, not even the Emperor's most faithful and powerful servants, can know of the Grey Knight's true nature or the insidious evils they confront. They hide, they obscure, they erase. But why? What forbidden knowledge do they carry, and what consequences could it have for the Imperium if revealed? As we delve deeper into the purpose and implications of this Oath of Silence, we uncover a chilling truth that raises far-reaching questions about loyalty, duty, and the cost of protection in the eternal war against chaos. The story of the Grey Knight's Oath of Silence is not merely a tale of mystery, but a revelation of the Imperium's darkest secrets, a testament to the lengths humanity must go to defend itself in the face of unimaginable horrors. The Grey Knights are unique within the Adeptus Astartes, forged with a singular purpose: to confront and eliminate the forces of chaos at their most powerful and insidious levels. Unlike other Space Marine chapters, they were created in absolute secrecy and remain bound to that silence, even among allies. Their very existence is unknown to most of the Imperium's forces, a result of their hidden origin and the incredible lengths taken to ensure they remain undetected. The Grey Knights are thus more than a chapter of the Emperor's finest. They are the Emperor's hidden blade, forged in secrecy, trained in isolation, and unleashed only in the direst moments when all hope seems lost. To understand the purpose and powers of the Grey Knights, we must first consider their creation. Unlike other Space Marine chapters who can trace their lineage back to one of the Primarchs, the Grey Knights have no such origin. They are rumored to have been directly created by the Emperor himself, a project so deeply veiled in secrecy that only the highest-ranking members of the Imperium, like the Sigillite Malcador, were privy to its details. Malcador's role as the Emperor's most trusted confidant was critical. His hand-picked selection of warriors formed the foundation of the Grey Knights, and these early members were chosen not only for their combat prowess, but also for their ability to resist corruption. Their legacy of purity is a cornerstone of the chapter's identity, a bloodline carefully guarded and selected to resist the very thing they were created to destroy. The Grey Knights operate outside of the standard hierarchy of Space Marine chapters and are unique in their unwavering commitment to secrecy. Their independence from the Codex Astartes, which dictates the formation, training, and conduct of Space Marine chapters, underscores their unique role. The Codex is more than a guide. It is the holy scripture of the Adeptus Astartes. Yet the Grey Knights answer to a different authority, operating directly under the Inquisition's Ordo Malleus, an institution solely dedicated to combating chaos. This partnership with the Ordo Malleus not only affords the Grey Knights unparalleled freedom to act, but also binds them inextricably to the Inquisition's goals and secrecy. They do not fight for glory or for the accolades of imperial commanders. They are the unsung defenders of humanity, conducting battles that most citizens of the Imperium will never know took place. The unique relationship between the Grey Knights and the Ordo Malleus is built upon more than mutual purpose. The Ordo Malleus requires tools capable of facing demonic forces beyond even the most hardened Space Marine, and the Grey Knights are equipped to meet this demand. Unlike other Astartes, each Grey Knight is gifted with powerful psychic abilities, allowing them to wield their minds as a weapon against the forces of the warp. These abilities, combined with rigorous training and specialized weaponry, make them unparalleled in the fight against chaos. Their psychic powers are essential in this war, allowing them to resist the corrupting whispers of demons that could break even the strongest of minds. Yet it is their purity, more than their powers, that makes them the ultimate weapon against chaos. They must be untainted by even the slightest doubt or fear, for a single crack in their resolve could mean doom not only for themselves, but for the entire galaxy. The psychic abilities of the Grey Knights are not simply gifts, but burdens they carry alone. The power to combat chaos psychically comes at a heavy price, for it places them directly in the path of corruption. Where other Space Marines may struggle to resist the lure of the warp, the Grey Knights must actively confront it, harnessing its power while keeping themselves unblemished. This delicate balance is one that requires constant vigilance, rigorous mental discipline, and a level of spiritual purity beyond what any other force in the galaxy could hope to maintain. This purity is preserved through the Oath of Silence, an unbreakable vow that requires each Grey Knight to keep the secrets of their order, their battles, and their abilities even from their fellow warriors of the Imperium. The very existence of the Grey Knights and their role within the Imperium is hidden for a reason, a secret they keep even unto death. Their power and purpose are such that if knowledge of them became widespread, it could disrupt the fragile faith that holds the Imperium together. The Grey Knights are not ordinary warriors, but beings designed to combat the very essence of chaos. The Ordo Malleus and the leaders of the Grey Knights understand that the knowledge they possess, the knowledge of chaos, demons, and the true nature of the warp, could shatter the morale of even the most steadfast Imperial forces. The Oath of Silence is therefore more than a tradition. It is a necessary safeguard, a barrier between the horror they face and the countless souls of humanity who could not bear it. Even among the ranks of the Inquisition, the Grey Knights are seldom discussed, and only a select few know the extent of their capabilities. Those who do possess this knowledge are themselves bound by strict oaths and protocols, sworn to protect the secrecy of the Grey Knights at all costs. High-ranking inquisitors of the Ordo Malleus may command their services, but even they are subject to the limitations of secrecy that the Grey Knights enforce. The Inquisition, known for its relentless pursuit of truth and punishment of heresy, bends to this unique code. They recognize that the Grey Knight's survival depends on the ignorance of others, and in a galaxy fraught with treachery and corruption, ignorance is often the greatest form of protection. The Grey Knight's unwavering commitment to secrecy has fostered a culture of absolute loyalty, one that goes beyond the bonds of traditional brotherhood. A Grey Knight's identity is dissolved into the greater purpose of the chapter. They live, fight, and die not as individuals, but as manifestations of the Emperor's will. They are required to abandon any connection to their past life, and their very names are replaced by numerical designations, stripping them of personal history to ensure that only their purpose remains. Unlike other Space Marines who take pride in their lineage and honors, the Grey Knights relinquish their individuality entirely, a sacrifice that reinforces their singular focus on destroying chaos without distraction or hesitation. As we unravel the mystery surrounding the Grey Knights, it becomes clear that they are more than warriors. They are living icons of the Emperor's unyielding resolve against chaos. Their power, their discipline, and their loyalty are unmatched, yet they remain hidden from the gaze of the Imperium, for their purpose demands it. The Grey Knights do not exist to inspire or to lead. They exist to protect, to destroy, and to remain unseen. Through their oath and sacrifice, they guard a universe that will never know their names, a galaxy that remains ignorant of the horrors they face each day. In this silence lies their greatest power and their greatest burden. The Grey Knight's Oath of Silence is a shield for the Imperium, a shield made of hidden knowledge, deadly skill, and an unyielding dedication to secrecy. What lies beneath this oath, however, is something that even they cannot escape. The reality that the forces they battle are eternal, and the silence they uphold may one day be the only thing that stands between humanity and annihilation. The events that led to the creation of the Grey Knights began during one of the Imperium's darkest periods, the Horus Heresy. This civil war tore through the heart of the galaxy, pitting brother against brother and nearly ending humanity's dominion. But the true horror of the heresy was not merely the betrayal of Space Marine against Space Marine. It was the revelation of the dark gods of the warp. The Emperor, always aware of the Chaos God's presence, had attempted to keep their existence a secret, hoping that humanity would remain ignorant of their power. However, with Horus's rebellion, the true nature of these malevolent forces became undeniable, and they revealed themselves to be a threat beyond mortal comprehension. As the galaxy fractured under the assault of traitor legions and warp-spawned horrors, it became clear that a new kind of force was needed to confront the rising tide of chaos. Even the greatest Astartes could fall to the temptations of the warp, as the War Master Horus had proved. But the Emperor and his most trusted ally, Malkador the Sigillite, understood that the Imperium required a group of warriors whose purity and loyalty were absolute, unbreakable, even in the face of chaos itself. It was Malkador who became the architect of this new force, selecting individuals whose resilience and psychic strength marked them as incorruptible. Malkador's vision for this force was radical. It demanded that these warriors be unlike any others in the Imperium, capable of resisting the temptations that had brought even the sons of the Emperor to ruin. With the galaxy collapsing into ruin around him, Malkador sought out candidates from across the shattered realms of humanity, individuals known not only for their combat prowess, but also for an unyielding mental discipline. These were men who had experienced the horrors of chaos and had seen friends, mentors, and leaders fall to corruption, yet they themselves had remained steadfast. They were chosen not for their ability to win glory on the battlefield, but for their willingness to sacrifice everything to prevent the spread of chaos. Each of these selected warriors underwent a transformation that pushed them beyond the limits of a normal Astartes. Malkador, with the Emperor's guidance, initiated them into practices and rituals that would allow them to confront and withstand the warp's most vile influences. These rituals were not merely tests of strength or skill. They were ordeals designed to temper the mind and spirit. Failure was deadly, and only those whose souls were utterly unshakable survived. Those who passed became something entirely new, warriors who understood that their lives were a shield for humanity, and that their deaths, if it came to that, would be a mere ripple in the never-ending struggle against chaos. The training and rituals performed during this period were unprecedented, and much of their detail has been lost to history, buried within the Grey Knight's own secrecy. What is known, however, is that Malkador's project was completed in absolute isolation, hidden from even the Emperor's closest advisors. Only a few individuals, all sworn to silence, bore witness to the birth of this new order. Their silence was more than a pledge. It was an oath bound by the terrible knowledge of the horrors that awaited the galaxy. They were aware that if the truth of chaos spread unchecked, if the common citizen or even many in the military ranks became aware of what truly lay in the warp, it would unleash chaos and despair on a scale that could tear humanity apart from within. The creation of this force did not happen in an instant. Malkador worked tirelessly, gathering and training individuals while simultaneously managing the tides of war that continued to engulf the Imperium. His efforts remained concealed, a whisper amidst the thunder of the heresy. While others fought and died in defense of the Emperor, Malkador quietly laid the groundwork for a force that would endure beyond the horrors of the present conflict, a force that would continue to fight when even the strongest legions had faltered. In time, this small but dedicated group would become the Grey Knights, an order formed not to win glory, but to protect humanity from its own worst fears. The nature of the Grey Knights was shaped by the failures of the Horus heresy. They were constructed as a reflection of the lessons learned in that brutal civil war. That knowledge of the warp was both a weapon and a curse, that the Imperium's citizens and soldiers could not be allowed to face truths they were unequipped to comprehend, and that any knowledge of the Grey Knights themselves was a risk too great to bear. From their inception, Secrecy was woven into their very foundation. Even as they were born, they were bound to the silence of the shadows. When the Emperor was mortally wounded by Horus in the final battle of the heresy, Malcador took on the task of completing this hidden force. With his dying breath, he named the warriors who had survived his trials and training as the Emperor's most loyal and unbreakable defenders. Each was bound by a unique code of silence, an oath to shield not only the Imperium from chaos, but also its citizens from the knowledge of chaos's horrors. This oath was not simply a vow of secrecy. It was the core of their very being, a defining tenet that dictated their existence. Unlike the other Astartes, they were not permitted to pass down their deeds through oral histories, nor were they allowed to leave any mark of their existence in imperial records. They were as invisible as the enemies they fought, an order hidden in plain sight. The success of Malcador's creation became apparent as the Imperium began to rebuild after the heresy. His legacy, the Grey Knights, endured as a force of unparalleled purity, one capable of facing the psychic monstrosities of the warp without succumbing to corruption. Each warrior was both a soldier and a guardian of secrets so terrible that the knowledge alone could drive lesser men to madness. And as the Great Scouring unfolded, the period during which the Loyalist forces hunted down the remnants of the traitor legions, the Grey Knights took their first steps into battle under a shroud of anonymity. Their battles, fought on distant worlds or in the depths of space, left no survivors who could testify to their existence. They moved through the galaxy as phantoms, a silent strike against chaos that none but the highest members of the Ordo Malleus could even suspect. The heresy had shown the Imperium the terrible cost of betrayal, and the Grey Knights represented the Imperium's response. They were not only defenders, but avengers, a righteous wrath that would be unleashed without recognition or reward. For the Grey Knights to exist was to sacrifice everything, to be nameless, faceless, and unremembered, to fight an enemy that could never be vanquished, and to do so knowing that the world they protected would never know of their struggle. In their silence lay their power, and in their power lay the hope of a galaxy that could continue on, unaware of the horrors from which it was shielded. The establishment of the Grey Knights after the Horus heresy was both a tribute to the Emperor's vision and a grim acknowledgement of the Imperium's darkest truths. This force, born out of secrecy, was designed to be the ultimate bulwark against chaos, one that would never falter or be tainted. Their creation, however, left a legacy of silence that remains one of the Imperium's most carefully guarded secrets. The sacrifices made by those first Grey Knights laid a foundation upon which the chapter would build for millennia to come, forging an order that stands alone, bound by a silence that has lasted through the ages. Their story is one of loyalty beyond measure, of strength tempered in darkness, and of a legacy that remains hidden, its true significance known to only a handful of souls in a galaxy teetering on the edge of annihilation. The Grey Knights' operations are a saga of secrecy, strategically layered across centuries and hidden from nearly all records within the Imperium. The path to their current form involved countless silent battles fought in the Imperium's darkest shadows and against its most unspeakable horrors. Without recognition, they traveled through the most corrupted corners of the galaxy, eradicating threats that other forces would flee from, operating without any promise of glory or acknowledgement. From the earliest days of their establishment, the Grey Knights moved in near total isolation, enforcing silence around their actions and ensuring that none could speak of their work. To allow even one survivor to tell their tale could risk exposing the secrets they safeguarded with their lives. As they moved deeper into their role, the Grey Knights took on a code of conduct that extended beyond any standard of loyalty or service in the Imperium. Their lives were held to a standard of complete separation from the world they protected. They operated in extreme autonomy, answering only to the highest levels of the Ordo Malleus. This secrecy was by design, essential to their function. They did not follow the traditions of other Astartes or engage with Imperial commanders outside their ranks. They fought unrecorded wars and erased every trace of their involvement, ensuring that not even whispers remained. From the ashes of each mission, the Grey Knights withdrew, leaving nothing behind but silence. Each mission the Grey Knights undertake requires thorough preparation, a process as clandestine as the battles themselves. They often use the network of the Ordo Malleus to identify threats that lie beyond the scope of standard military intervention, threats whose very existence would terrify and demoralize the Imperium's citizens and soldiers alike. The Ordo Malleus identifies outbreaks of chaos taint or demonic infestation that lie too deep for ordinary purges, and once such a threat is confirmed, the Grey Knights are summoned. Their appearance is often the last line of defense, a declaration that the danger is so extreme it requires intervention from forces that operate beyond humanity's knowledge. Every deployment of the Grey Knights is cloaked in secrecy. In many cases, they arrive unnoticed, disembarking from ships equipped with cloaking technology or through means that even high-ranking Imperial officials cannot explain. From orbit to battlefield, the Grey Knights' movements are designed to avoid detection, and when they emerge from the shadows, they do so with swift, ruthless precision. Their targets, typically warp-spawned entities and cults, are eliminated in a matter of hours, sometimes even minutes, with such thoroughness that not even echoes remain. Entire settlements, sometimes tainted beyond redemption, are quietly purged. Their methods ensure that no witness survives, for even those who glimpse the Grey Knights in action must not live to recount it. This is not cruelty. It is a form of mercy, a shield for those who, if exposed to the true nature of chaos, might be forever scarred. The strategic doctrines of the Grey Knights evolved over time, shaped by the horrors they faced and the need for absolute secrecy. Unlike other forces within the Imperium, they cannot rely on reinforcements or the support of allied Astartes. Their missions are planned meticulously, with all variables considered to prevent any situation where their presence could be revealed. Their numbers are few, and they operate with an efficiency born from centuries of isolated warfare. Battles involving the Grey Knights are over before they begin, for every aspect of their strikes is premeditated to ensure the total elimination of all witnesses. From their landing to their departure, the Grey Knights employ tactics that other Space Marines would find unfathomable, often utilizing specialized weaponry designed to wipe out entire populations with minimal collateral damage, leaving no trace of their presence behind. This meticulous planning also extends to the manner in which the Grey Knights engage with demonic entities. Their psychic abilities are enhanced by training methods that make them resistant to corruption, but the very act of facing chaos takes a toll on even the strongest of warriors. They have developed techniques to isolate themselves from the pervasive whispers of the warp, using incantations and wards that allow them to fight close to these entities without losing control. They bear unique artifacts, ancient relics that have been consecrated through esoteric rituals, each crafted with the sole purpose of battling chaos. Their armor, a shining silver forged in secret, bears wards and symbols etched in ancient languages known only to the highest members of their order. These sacred markings act as both armor and talisman, repelling the corruption that claims lesser warriors and making the Grey Knights a living bulwark against chaos. Throughout each engagement, the Grey Knights adhere to an unbreakable code of silence, ensuring that nothing, not even a sliver of information, can leak. After each victory, the survivors, if any, are swiftly silenced. This does not always mean death. In cases where civilians or Imperial soldiers inadvertently witness their battles, their memories are carefully altered or erased, using psychic techniques that only the Grey Knights possess. The Ordo Malleus assists in this operation, deploying agents skilled in manipulation and secrecy to create a narrative that diverts suspicion. As a result, entire towns and cities have woken from what they thought were dreams or hallucinations, unaware that the very landscape around them bore scars of a battle against chaos. The methods of the Grey Knights are as controversial as they are essential. They embody a contradiction within the Imperium, for their mission is one of uncompromising silence, even as they fight to uphold the Emperor's will. Their role places them at odds with many other branches of the Imperium, including the Adeptus Astartes, who view honor and valor as the core of a warrior's identity. For the Grey Knights, these principles have been redefined. Honor lies in silence, valor in secrecy. They are a silent blade, used with surgical precision, never to be seen or acknowledged. Their commitment to the oath of silence has made them outsiders in their own empire, a position that they accept as the cost of their purpose. One example of the extreme lengths the Grey Knights go to maintain their secrecy can be seen in their practice of deploying a select few from the chapter known as exterminators. These specialized warriors are chosen for their ability to act without hesitation, removing any witnesses who might remain after a mission. Exterminators are deployed after a battle, sweeping through the area to eliminate anyone who could compromise the Grey Knight's secrecy, be they Imperial Guardsmen, Astartes, or civilians. This grim task is performed with a sense of duty, and those assigned to it accept their role without question, for they understand that the survival of the Imperium depends on the ignorance of its people. To protect humanity from knowledge that could corrupt, the exterminators become the unseen executioners of the chapter, a last line of secrecy. Over time, the Grey Knights have adapted to the constantly shifting nature of the warp. The evolution of chaos and the manifestations of demons grow more complex with each passing century, requiring the Grey Knights to continuously enhance their methods and techniques. They develop new psychic powers, refine their rituals, and experiment with equipment that allows them to face threats that defy traditional combat. To them, every battle is a learning experience, every encounter a study in the endless horrors of chaos. The Ordo Malleus provides them with resources beyond any other Imperial force, granting them access to ancient relics, forbidden texts, and experimental weaponry. Yet even the Ordo is kept at a distance. The Inquisition may be privy to the existence of the Grey Knights, but their methods remain shrouded, known only to those within the chapter itself. In the years following each campaign, as the Imperium rebuilds the world scarred by demonic incursions, the Grey Knights quietly return to their secluded fortress monastery. Here, they train, meditate, and purge their minds of any residual taint from their battles. The fortress, hidden on Titan in the warp storms of the Sol system, serves as both their sanctuary and their prison. It is a place shrouded in rituals and protected by psychic wards, designed to prevent even the slightest whisper from escaping. In this isolated stronghold, they remain until the next call to action, studying the fragments of chaos they have gathered, preparing for the next unknown horror that awaits them. For the Grey Knights, there is no rest. Every moment of peace is an interlude, a brief respite before the next unseen battle. Their fortress, hidden in secrecy, is a bastion of silence, a physical representation of their purpose. The rituals performed within its walls are so secret that only the highest-ranking members of the chapter are aware of their full significance. Each ritual is an ancient rite of purification, a way to maintain the spiritual integrity of the warriors who must face the unfaceable. They chant in languages lost to history, channeling psychic energies that would destroy lesser beings. These rites are essential, for without them the Grey Knights could fall to the very corruption they are sworn to prevent. Their silence is thus both a vow and a weapon, a shield against the dangers of the warp that threaten to consume even the most steadfast hearts. Within the concealed history of the Grey Knights, there is a pivotal moment that transformed their mission and hardened their resolve against the forces of chaos. This shift occurred during the early centuries of their existence, a time when the galaxy was still reeling from the aftershocks of the Horus heresy. Chaos had not been vanquished, merely driven back into the shadows, and demonic incursions surged across the Imperium. The Imperium's defenders were ill-prepared to counter these invasions, for they had no understanding of the true scale of the warp's corruption. At the heart of this dark resurgence, the Grey Knights confronted a menace that would redefine the boundaries of their duty. This moment, known among the Grey Knights as the Black Seal Incident, was a defining trial, one that nearly led to their destruction. The threat emerged in the Veil Nebula, a region already infamous for the intensity of its warp storms. It was here that a chaos cult of unimaginable power arose, one that had delved into forbidden knowledge and tapped into sorceries capable of twisting reality itself. The cult, calling itself the Covenant of Shadows, sought to summon a demon prince of Tzeentch, the chaos god of change and manipulation, a being whose arrival would have destabilized the very fabric of the Veil Nebula, allowing the forces of the warp to spill into the material universe unchecked. The Ordo Malleus, aware of the danger but hesitant to act openly, turned to the Grey Knights, trusting them as the only force capable of both defeating the Covenant and erasing any trace of the incursion. The Covenant had already corrupted entire worlds, infesting planetary systems with its influence. As the Grey Knights mobilized in secret, they understood that this mission would be unlike any they had undertaken. The cult's summoning ritual required the simultaneous opening of multiple warp portals across dozens of star systems. Coordinated attacks on such a scale required careful strategy and precision, for failure to disrupt even one portal could spell catastrophe for the sector. The Grey Knights, however, were undeterred. They had prepared for this, trained in the most severe conditions to ensure that no matter the odds, they would prevail. The operation to dismantle the Covenant of Shadows began with pinpoint strikes on the outer reaches of the Veil Nebula, where the cult had established hidden bases and ritual sites. The Grey Knights descended with the silent ferocity of shadows, eliminating cult cells with ruthless efficiency and erasing any record of their presence. Each strike was a masterclass in control and restraint. They moved swiftly, minimizing collateral damage, and disappeared before Imperial forces or civilians could register their presence. Yet as they closed in on the core of the Covenant's influence, the Grey Knights began to face horrors that even their rigorous training had not fully prepared them for. As they infiltrated deeper into the cult's territory, the Grey Knights encountered powerful demonic entities guarding each portal. These were not simple manifestations of the warp, but avatars created from the minds and nightmares of the cultists themselves, living embodiments of the Covenant's collective madness and ambition. Each of these entities wielded powers that could warp reality, altering the battlefield into nightmarish landscapes where the very laws of nature no longer applied. Time fractured, gravity warped, and thoughts manifested as visions, all of it amplified by the madness of Tzeentch's influence. The Grey Knights, however, held fast, adapting to the ever-shifting environment through psychic fortitude and disciplined unity, their strength in faith and purpose, allowing them to resist the attacks on their minds and senses. In a particularly harrowing engagement on the cursed moon of Kael Damar, the Grey Knights faced one of the Covenant's champions, a human sorcerer transformed into a demon host. This being wielded power that defied understanding. Its every gesture twisted reality itself, hurling raw psychic energy as if it were nothing more than an extension of its own rage. It taunted the Grey Knights with visions of annihilation, daring them to look into the warp's true depths. Yet the Knights, bound by their silent discipline, met each attack with absolute resilience. The demon host's corruption writhed against the purity of the Grey Knights' wards, and in a final act of defiance, the creature attempted to break the minds of the warriors by flooding their thoughts with visions of Tzeentch's realms. But the Grey Knights, unwavering in their silent oath, struck it down, banishing the creature and purging its influence from the moon. With each victory, the Grey Knights' commitment to secrecy was tested further. The Covenant's summoning ritual had already begun, and the cultists grew desperate, intensifying their efforts as they realized they were losing ground. Some members of the Covenant, in their desperation, reached out to local planetary governors, offering them glimpses of forbidden knowledge in exchange for protection. These governors, hungry for power, made secret pacts with the cult, seeking to use the warp's power for their own gain. This act of betrayal nearly compromised the Grey Knights' mission, as it threatened to draw the attention of the broader Imperium. However, the Grey Knights acted swiftly, intercepting messages and executing those who had sided with the Covenant before they could spread any knowledge of the warp's influence. As the battle moved toward the cult's central fortress on the world of Valak Ru, the the stakes grew unimaginably high. Valak Ru was a dead world, hollowed out by centuries of conflict and warped by the presence of ancient relics that the Covenant had gathered for their final ritual. The atmosphere itself vibrated with a psychic charge, like a waiting storm, and as the Grey Knights approached, they realized that this place was the true heart of the cult's power. Here, the Demon Prince's summoning was already well underway, and the veil between the warp and real space had thinned to a breaking point. The assault on Valak Ru was one of the most intense battles the Grey Knights had ever waged. The cultists, empowered by their proximity to the warp, fought with a frenzied zeal, chanting ancient incantations as they hurled themselves at the Grey Knights, their bodies mutating as they drew upon the corrupting influence of Tsench. The ground itself seemed to resist the knights' every step, twisting into grotesque shapes as if the very world sought to protect the cult. Yet the Grey Knights pressed forward, using their psychic powers to shield themselves and each other from the demonic assaults, relying on their unwavering discipline to push through the chaos. Finally, the Grey Knights reached the core of the Covenant's ritual site, a massive chamber lined with glyphs that pulsed with malevolent energy, centered around an altar where the Demon Prince was being drawn into the material realm. The summoning was nearly complete, the demon's form already half-manifested, its presence warping reality around it in spiraling waves of distortion. The Grey Knights knew that they had moments to act, that if the creature fully materialized, it would take all of them, and perhaps more, to destroy it. In a desperate gamble, the Grey Knight's highest-ranking Justicar led a final assault, directing his brethren in a ritual of banishment designed to sever the Demon Prince's connection to real space. Channeling their psychic power, they focused all their will into breaking the summoning's grip on the material realm. As they chanted the ancient words of exorcism, the air grew thick with psychic energy, vibrating with a resonance that countered the demon's howl of rage. The creature fought back with every ounce of its unholy strength, lashing out at the knights, attempting to corrupt their minds and bodies in a last attempt to escape the banishment. But the Grey Knights held their ground, their voices rising in defiance of the demon's fury, their powers aligned in perfect unison. And at the climactic moment, their ritual succeeded. The demon was ripped from reality, banished back to the depths of the warp, its influence shattered, and the Covenant of Shadows left broken and powerless. In that instant, the Veil Nebula was saved from becoming a gateway to the warp, and the Covenant's ambitions were crushed. The cost of victory, however, was steep. Many Grey Knights fell during the battle, their names unrecorded and their sacrifices unremembered by all but their brothers. In the aftermath, the survivors scoured Valak Ru, ensuring that no trace of the cult's influence remained. The Covenant's fortress was razed, its ruins scattered and concealed, and any knowledge of the events that had taken place was erased from Imperial records. For the Grey Knights, the memory of the Black Seal incident became a silent burden, a victory achieved at the edge of annihilation and secured only through total secrecy. In the years that followed, new rituals and fortifications to ensure that no cult could ever again reach such a dangerous threshold. The battle on Valak Ru became a lesson etched into their minds, a reminder that the warp was a cunning enemy, ever adapting, and that their vigilance would have to evolve continually. The Black Seal incident remains one of their most guarded secrets, a story only told within the chapter, known solely to remind them of the price of failure and the unyielding need for their silence. The repercussions of the Grey Knight's victory in the Veil Nebula extended far beyond the immediate aftermath of the battle. Their methods and the lengths to which they went to ensure that the threat of chaos remained concealed became a core part of their doctrine. They realized that for every one demonic cult or insurrection that they annihilated, there were countless others rising in the hidden places of the galaxy. To secure humanity's survival, the Grey Knights needed to develop their operations into an intricate system of surveillance, preemptive action, and erasure. No other organization in the Imperium operated with such secrecy or wielded so much autonomy, and as the centuries passed, They perfected their tactics, becoming an ever-present invisible shield against the darkest threats. The Grey Knights established a vast intelligence network across the Imperium. Although they relied on the Ordo Malleus for initial information about emerging threats, they developed their own clandestine methods to track, infiltrate, and dismantle potential cults or demonic influences before they could gain traction. They trained specialized operatives, known as seers, within their ranks to act as psychically attuned scouts. These seers did not engage in direct combat. Rather, they journeyed through Imperial space in deep cover, sensing fluctuations in psychic energy and anomalies in the warp that could hint at a growing threat. By attuning themselves to the psychic currents, they could detect the early stirrings of chaos in places that even the Ordo Malleus could not reach. Seers employed a delicate balance of subterfuge and silence. Many spent years embedded in remote areas of the Imperium, observing the hidden currents of corruption while avoiding detection. They would report back to the Grey Knights only when they had confirmed a threat, using coded channels that bypassed even the most secure inquisitorial networks. The information they relayed was often cryptic, filled with encoded warnings about potential outbreaks and threats that could only be deciphered by those familiar with the hidden language of the Grey Knights. This layer of secrecy, while extreme, ensured that only those within the Order would ever be able to act upon such information, further protecting the Imperium from the knowledge of Chaos's influence. On receiving such warnings, the Grey Knights would dispatch small, specialized units to eliminate the threat before it could escalate. These units, known as purifiers, were carefully selected from among the chapter's most unyielding warriors, individuals whose psychic resistance and moral integrity were beyond question. Purifiers operated in groups of 3 to 5, never large enough to draw attention, but sufficient to erase a cult or demonic manifestation without assistance. Each purifier possessed a distinct set of skills. Some were masters of stealth, others excelled in psychic combat, and all bore equipment uniquely suited to erasing evidence of their passage. Their goal was not only to destroy the enemy, but to leave no trace of the encounter behind. The Purifiers' missions were often as brief as they were brutal. They would strike at night, under cover of darkness, or in areas so remote that no Imperial forces would take notice. The local populations, if any, were typically unaware that they had come into contact with a chaos-tainted presence. If, however, they did witness the battle, the Purifiers were prepared with tools to alter memories or, when necessary, eliminate witnesses entirely. They took no pleasure in these actions, but they were bound to their task by an unbreakable duty to keep the horrors of chaos confined to the shadows. The Purifiers carried devices known as thought scramblers, relics of ancient technology that could erase specific memories or implant suggestions to help cover their tracks. Those few who glimpsed them in action would later recall only fragments of what they had seen, memories as elusive and unreliable as a dream. In addition to Purifiers, the Grey Knights also developed a class of operatives who functioned as their intelligence enforcers, the Sentinels. Sentinels were stationed within the Ordo Malleus itself, blending into its ranks as inquisitorial aides or liaisons, but their true loyalty lay with the Grey Knights. Their role was to monitor inquisitors and Imperial officials, ensuring that no trace of the Grey Knights' activities slipped into official records or reports. Sentinels were highly skilled in manipulation and secrecy, often working in shadows even within the already secretive structure of the Inquisition. They had a single purpose: to maintain the silence that safeguarded the Grey Knights. Sentinels were chosen for their loyalty and discretion, trained extensively in psychological and strategic manipulation. They understood that the knowledge of chaos could spread like a contagion, and their task was to prevent even the slightest whisper from reaching those who might misuse or misunderstand it. Operating within the hierarchy of the Inquisition, Sentinels subtly adjusted or expunged records, removed or altered evidence, and sometimes even influenced the thoughts of inquisitive minds who strayed too close to forbidden truths. To their colleagues, they appeared as simple bureaucrats or low-ranking aides, their actions invisible, their influence unnoticed. Yet through these subtle interventions, the Sentinels shaped the direction of inquisitorial investigations, steering them away from any detail that could reveal the existence of the Grey Knights. Over the centuries, this system of seers, purifiers, and sentinels evolved into an unbreakable web of control, a silent hand guiding the Imperium away from knowledge that could weaken its foundations. The Grey Knights knew that knowledge was power, but they also knew that the wrong knowledge in the wrong hands was more dangerous than any weapon. For every incursion they erased, for every cult they silenced, they protected the Imperium not only from chaos, but from the very awareness of chaos. Ignorance, they came to believe, was humanity's last defense, and they became the guardians of this ignorance, silently reshaping reality to fit within the limits of what the Imperium could accept. These layers of secrecy had profound implications. They created a reality in which the Grey Knights were neither myth nor fact, a liminal presence that even the Inquisition could barely comprehend. Imperial citizens, soldiers, and even Astartes chapters fought battles every day against traitors, heretics, and alien forces, unaware that some of the most significant threats to humanity were being eliminated before they could even take form. The Grey Knights' actions prevented widespread panic, insurrections, and even entire planetary populations from being lost to despair. To the rest of the galaxy, these victories were unknown, and for the Grey Knights, this obscurity was the truest testament to their success. Yet for the Grey Knights, the burden of this secrecy was immense. Their isolation from other Imperial forces meant that they had no external allies and often relied only on the strength and trust within their own brotherhood. This self-imposed exile forged a unique sense of identity among them, a shared understanding that their lives and deaths were dedicated to a cause that would remain forever unrecognized. They became each other's confidants, the only ones who truly understood the horrors they faced and the sacrifices they made. In time, they developed a culture that revolved around stoicism, acceptance, and purpose, transcending the personal honor or glory that other Astartes often sought. Their victory lay not in triumph or renown, but in the silent continuation of the Imperium's order. But even as they thrived within this silence, the Grey Knights remained vigilant. They knew that the forces of chaos were endlessly adaptive, always finding new ways to corrupt, infiltrate, and subvert the Imperium. For this reason, the Grey Knights' operatives began gathering rare artifacts, ancient texts, and relics of forbidden knowledge not to use, but to understand their enemy more fully. The chapter's fortress monastery grew to contain a vast, hidden repository of these dangerous items, sealed behind psychic wards and arcane technologies, stored away so that they could never be misused. This library of tainted relics became one of the most closely guarded secrets of the chapter, its existence known only to a select few within the highest ranks of the Grey Knights. Within these chambers lay artifacts of incredible power, objects that could corrupt the minds of even the most steadfast souls, remnants of battles fought against the darkest corners of the warp. Each item was studied, documented, and then sealed away, removed from any possibility of reaching the hands of those who would misuse it. The Grey Knights understood that these artifacts were not trophies, nor were they weapons. They were a burden, a reminder of the unending war they fought against chaos. They represented knowledge too dangerous to destroy, yet too lethal to allow others to possess. This repository, known to them as the Vault of Shadows, became an essential part of their silent war, a collection of secrets whose very existence threatened the stability of the Imperium. The Vault of Shadows grew over time, its silent halls filled with relics of past battles and forbidden knowledge from worlds beyond comprehension. Here, under psychic seals and runic inscriptions, lay grimoires that contained the names of ancient demons, weapons that could tear open the fabric of reality, and shattered remnants of warp-tainted machinery. Only the most trusted members of the Grey Knights were allowed access to these chambers, and even they entered with caution, for the artifacts held within were an ever-present reminder of the fragility of the Imperium's defenses. In these silent halls, the Grey Knights waged a war not only against chaos, but against the very knowledge of its existence, ensuring that these artifacts would never see the light of day. Through this combination of vigilance, control, and containment, the Grey Knights succeeded in shaping an era of relative peace and order hidden from the eyes of the Imperium. They shielded humanity not only from the forces that would destroy it, but from the very truths that could unravel its resolve. Their sacrifice, one of silence and secrecy, became the bulwark against the knowledge that could drive humanity into ruin, and in their unseen, unspoken war, they found a purpose. In the hidden annals of the Imperium, among the records that only a few select inquisitors and high-ranking Grey Knights themselves may know, lie questions and mysteries that have endured for millennia. Despite the stringent secrecy surrounding the Grey Knights and their operations, enigmatic gaps and unresolved anomalies sometimes surface, hinting at knowledge even they are unable to grasp fully. Within the chapter, these unanswered mysteries form part of an unspoken lore, a collection of unsolvable riddles and half-understood phenomena that remind even the Grey Knights that not all can be contained or controlled. One such mystery is the existence of the Vanished Knights, a term used within the chapter to describe those Grey Knights who have disappeared under circumstances that defy explanation. These warriors, skilled beyond measure and unwavering in their loyalty, embarked on missions from which they never returned, with no trace or explanation for their disappearance. For some, their loss could be attributed to the incomprehensible dangers of the warp or their encounters with impossibly powerful demons, yet for others, the circumstances remain shrouded in profound mystery. Unlike typical casualties, these knights did not leave behind bodies, wreckage, or any indication of a final confrontation. They simply vanished, erased as if by an unseen hand. The lore of the Vanished Knights carries a cautionary undertone within the chapter. It serves as a reminder that, even with their formidable skills and psychic powers, there exist forces within the warp and the galaxy beyond that defy comprehension and resist conquest. These disappearances haunt the Grey Knights, though they speak of them rarely, as if acknowledging them might summon the same fate upon others. Some speculate that these vanished warriors crossed into realms of the warp that even they could not overcome, places where reality itself no longer functions by any law or logic. Others theorize about regions of space that conceal entities older than humanity, creatures of chaos that are neither demon nor mortal, but something altogether different. Within this lore, another enigma casts a shadow over the Grey Knights' history, the so-called Shades of Titan. According to stories shared in the hushed halls of their fortress monastery, there have been sightings of strange incorporeal figures, apparitions that resemble fallen knights. These ghostly figures appear at moments of great peril or just before significant events within the chapter, appearing and disappearing as swiftly as shadows. While the chapter officially dismisses these sightings as hallucinations or as tricks of the warp, there are those within their ranks who believe the Shades are a manifestation of the Emperor's will, or perhaps the lingering spirits of the Vanished Knights. The Shades of Titan remain a profound mystery, for the Grey Knights are not given to superstition, nor are they known to entertain the notion of restless spirits. Yet these apparitions defy logical explanations, appearing to watch over the chapter, or at times, even guiding younger knights in battle. Those who have encountered them describe feeling a sense of calm, as though reassured by a force beyond their understanding. Whether the Shades are echoes of past warriors, protective spirits, or simply hallucinations brought on by the psychic strain of their duties, no one can say. The Grey Knights do not record these sightings in their official histories, preferring to leave them unspoken and unresolved, a quiet mystery hidden within the heart of their order. Another enigma lies in the artifact known as the Mirror of Souls, a relic that the Grey Knights recovered from a heretical cult many centuries ago. The mirror, believed to have been crafted by a Xeno civilization lost to history, is a dark, polished surface that reflects nothing but shadow. When first examined, the Grey Knights noticed that, while it did not show reflections in the traditional sense, it appeared to hold something within, a swirling, shifting darkness that moved independently, almost as if aware. Attempts to destroy the mirror failed, for its material resisted even the most potent weapons in the Grey Knights' arsenal. It was eventually placed in a secured vault deep within their fortress on Titan, surrounded by psychic wards. Over time, the Mirror of Souls became a source of fear and fascination among those few who knew of its existence. There were whispers that the mirror's darkness was alive, that it contained glimpses of places beyond the warp itself. Some claimed it showed reflections of possible futures, distorted images of what might come to pass, while others swore they saw figures, unknown, ghostly beings trapped within the shadow. A select group of senior Grey Knights, those deemed capable of resisting its influence, have studied the mirror, yet none have unlocked its secrets. It remains a silent enigma, an artifact that defies both destruction and understanding, serving as an unsettling reminder that not all mysteries can or should be unraveled. Beyond these isolated mysteries, there is a deeper question that has troubled some of the Grey Knights' highest-ranking members, though it is rarely spoken of openly. It pertains to the origin of their chapter's psychic abilities and their unwavering resistance to corruption. While the Grey Knights believe that their purity is a result of the Emperor's blessing and the rigorous trials that forge them, there exists a haunting thought that perhaps their immunity comes at a hidden cost. Some within the chapter have questioned if their unbreakable will might in fact be a limitation imposed by an unknown force, a safeguard embedded within their very souls to prevent them from glimpsing too deeply into the nature of the warp. This question is compounded by occasional unexplained dreams experienced by certain Grey Knights. In these visions, they see themselves surrounded by endless darkness, with unseen voices whispering secrets that hover just beyond comprehension. Some interpret these dreams as warnings from the Emperor, while others consider them an invitation from something within the warp. These dreams, though rare, are unsettling and often lead the knights who experience them to undergo intense purification rites to cleanse themselves of any perceived taint. Yet, the visions persist, hinting at a deeper connection between the Grey Knights and the warp, a link that perhaps even they are unaware of or are unwilling to acknowledge. Another haunting mystery surrounds the founding of the chapter itself. While the Grey Knights understand that their origins trace back to the Emperor's will and Malcador the Sigillite's guidance, there are gaps and inconsistencies in the few records they possess. Legends suggest that during their formation, a ritual of unknown purpose was conducted, a rite said to have involved relics and sacrifices that no Grey Knight alive today can recount. Rumors suggest that some original members may have bound themselves in a covenant with an unknown power, a force that, while not chaos, exists on the fringes of reality. This pact, if it existed, would explain their resistance to corruption, but it raises troubling implications about the true nature of their loyalty and purpose. However, as with many of the Grey Knights' secrets, any attempt to probe this mystery further is discouraged, leaving it as yet another unresolved fragment in the tapestry of their history. The Grey Knights' connection to the Emperor himself is also a topic of mystery, one that they rarely discuss, but that remains a fundamental question for the chapter. The Emperor, who lies in eternal slumber upon the Golden Throne, continues to influence the Imperium through his psychic presence. Many Grey Knights believe that their powers stem directly from his will, that they are his chosen warriors against chaos. Yet some have wondered in their darkest moments whether the Emperor truly guides them, or if they are simply acting on remnants of his will, echoes of a force that is no longer fully aware. This question is not one that they dwell on, but for those who have witnessed the silence of the Emperor's gaze and felt the distance between themselves and his divine presence, it is a mystery that lingers at the edges of their consciousness. These mysteries, the vanished knights, the shades of Titan, the mirror of souls, the origin of their psychic purity, and the true connection to the Emperor form a web of secrets within the chapter. They are known only to a few, and even among those who know of them, few dare to question or seek answers. The Grey Knights accept these enigmas as part of their burden, an intrinsic aspect of the silence they uphold. Each mystery reminds them of the limitations of knowledge, of the dangers that come with seeking truths that humanity is not meant to understand. They continue their fight, undeterred by what they cannot explain, bound by an unspoken code that warns against delving too deeply into the shadows. For the Grey Knights, these mysteries are not merely unsolved puzzles. They are the very embodiment of the oath they have taken. The silence they preserve is not only a matter of strategy, but a shield against the corrupting influence of curiosity. Each question left unanswered is a choice to guard the Imperium's faith, to remain vigilant in the face of what must not be known. As they continue their eternal battle, they carry these enigmas within them, the quiet burdens of a chapter that was created to protect humanity from the terrible truths hidden within the warp. The Grey Knight's silence is thus a testament to their discipline, a vow that shields not only the Imperium, but also themselves from the dangers of forbidden knowledge, a silence that, for as long as they stand, will never be broken. As the centuries grind on and the Imperium endures trials beyond imagination, the Grey Knight's role evolves in ways unseen, yet profoundly influential. Despite their self-imposed silence and isolation, the echoes of their actions reverberate subtly throughout the galaxy, shaping the course of events from the shadows. For those few who have glimpsed their silent work, the Grey Knights are myth made real, a whisper of hope that, even in the Imperium's darkest hours, unseen warriors fight battles that no one else can even fathom. Yet, this very isolation that fortifies their mission also weighs heavily upon the chapter, as their silence brings them closer to becoming myths, even within the eyes of those they serve. Within the chapter, a unique phenomenon has emerged among its members as they grapple with the endless war against chaos, a sense of temporal dislocation where the warriors feel themselves drifting apart from the passage of time experienced by the Imperium's citizens. Unlike other Astartes, whose lives are shaped by campaigns and chapters of recorded history, the Grey Knights fight in a constant cycle of secrecy. They do not return to worlds they have saved, nor do they interact with those whom they protect. Each mission is an isolated act, a ripple of intervention with no continuity or aftermath. For them, history has no linear progression. It is an endless web of crises that remain undocumented and unremembered. Over time, many among the Grey Knights have come to see themselves as part of something beyond the mortal frame of time itself, as if their souls were bound to an unchanging purpose that exists outside the typical cycles of beginning and end. This sense of timelessness has fostered an even deeper bond within the chapter. They become one another's only constants, their brotherhood forged not just in shared duty, but in the knowledge that they alone bear the understanding of their unique isolation. Bonds within the Grey Knights transcend those found in other chapters. They live and fight together, bound by shared secrets and a singular vision of loyalty. While other Astartes might find honor in their lineage, the Grey Knights find meaning solely in each other and in the Emperor's purpose. Their histories are unwritten, their deeds unrecorded. To a Grey Knight, his brothers are his only witnesses, the only ones who will carry the memory of his life and death. In this shared silence, the Grey Knights forge an unbreakable unity that sustains them through trials that could drive other warriors to despair. Yet within this unity, there remains a palpable yearning, a faint but undeniable desire for a world where their purpose would no longer be necessary. While other Astartes might march into battle with the hope of earning glory, the Grey Knight's silent wish is for an end to the darkness, a galaxy in which chaos might one day be conquered fully. In moments of reflection, during rare lulls in battle or quiet rituals within the sanctum of Titan, they allow themselves to imagine a distant hope, that one day, perhaps their silence might no longer be needed. This desire, unspoken but shared, has led some among the chapter to question the ultimate cost of their secrecy and isolation. Are they safeguarding the Imperium by remaining hidden, or are they merely prolonging the conflict by withholding knowledge that might strengthen others? These are questions that find no answer, yet they linger, shaping the quiet prayers and meditations of even the most resolute among them. Despite these introspective moments, the Grey Knights have learned that their strength lies in unwavering purpose, that they are most effective when they embrace the role the Emperor has set for them. In this way, they maintain a focus that sustains them even when doubt arises. Rituals of purification and remembrance are held regularly within the chapter, with each ceremony emphasizing their role as the silent guardians of humanity. In these rituals, they purge themselves of fear, uncertainty, and personal ambition, realigning their minds to the higher purpose they serve. For them, each ritual is a reminder that, though they may never be known to those they protect, their actions preserve the very fabric of the Imperium. To be a Grey Knight is to embody the Emperor's will, a task that demands not only the eradication of chaos, but also the eradication of self, a transformation into a living weapon that bears no identity beyond purpose. As they carry out their unending war, the Grey Knights encounter countless entities and phenomena that remain outside the bounds of what even they can explain. In these moments, they experience a paradox. Though they stand as humanity's shield against chaos, they are constantly confronted by mysteries that hint at the limits of even their knowledge. Each encounter with an inexplicable entity, each brush with a force beyond the understanding of mortals, serves as a reminder that the universe is filled with truths that might forever elude humanity. For a chapter devoted to controlling and containing these dark forces, this realization is humbling, yet it strengthens their resolve. The unknown is a constant companion in their battles, an invisible shadow that reinforces their vigilance and reminds them of the necessity of their silence. In the end, the Grey Knights accept that theirs is a purpose without an ending. The fight against chaos is not one that can be won or lost. It is a balance, an eternal struggle that demands constant vigilance. They understand that the warp, the realm of chaos, is a reflection of humanity's darkest impulses, a reflection that cannot be destroyed as long as those impulses exist. For them, the task is not to eliminate chaos entirely, but to contain it, to ensure that it does not consume the Imperium. This understanding has led the chapter to develop a philosophy that transcends mere combat. They see themselves as keepers of humanity's soul, guardians of a fragile balance between order and entropy. Every battle, every sacrifice is part of this greater mission, a step in the unending effort to hold back the darkness that lies within every living being. In their silence, the Grey Knights find a peace that others cannot understand. For them, the absence of recognition is not a deprivation, but a sanctuary, a space where they can carry out their duties without the weight of expectation or the distraction of fame. They are bound not to the cycles of history or the accolades of war, but to an ideal, a higher purpose that exists beyond human comprehension. In this way, their silence becomes a shield, not only protecting the Imperium from chaos, but also preserving their own purity, their unwavering dedication to the Emperor. It is a silence that speaks to their highest values, a silence that sustains them even in the face of the most overwhelming darkness. For the Grey Knights, the end of each mission is merely the beginning of another. They return to their fortress monastery without ceremony, their deeds unspoken, their victories uncelebrated. They reflect upon their experiences not as tales to be shared, but as knowledge to be held in solemnity, as fragments of a larger truth that only they can bear. Their lives are defined by this cycle of silence and duty, a constant rhythm that carries them through centuries without respite or release. And as the galaxy darkens, as chaos spreads and the forces of the warp grow ever more insidious, the Grey Knights remain unchanging, the silent guardians whose legacy will never be recorded, yet whose influence is woven into the very foundation of the Imperium. In this way, the Grey Knights find purpose in their silence, a purpose that sustains them even in the face of eternity. They understand that their duty will outlast them, that they are part of a lineage that stretches forward and backward beyond memory, beyond time. As long as the Imperium endures, so too will the need for the Grey Knights, and in their hearts, they carry the knowledge that they are fulfilling the Emperor's final, unspoken command. They are his last safeguard, his unyielding defense against a darkness that even he could not fully eradicate. This is the unbreakable legacy of the Grey Knights, the quiet strength of a chapter that exists not to be known or celebrated, but to protect humanity from its greatest fears. They are bound by an oath deeper than words, a silence that defines their lives and shapes their souls. Through this silence, they transcend the ordinary bonds of loyalty and honor, becoming one with the Emperor's will, an eternal watch that stands unbroken even as the galaxy falls to ruin around them. And in this silence, they find their truest victory, a victory that requires no witness, no monument, and no name. It is a victory carved in shadow, a triumph woven into the fabric of the Imperium itself, sustained by the unyielding, unending strength of the Grey Knights.